Have you guys ever been looking at pictures of old boxers, like guys from the 30s, 50s, 40s? Why did we skip straight to 50? I don't know. And you look at them and you go, what are they wearing on their hands? It's not any kind of boxing glove you've ever seen. It doesn't look like it has any padding. It looks like a little thin piece of leather. I used to look at that and go, well, that's just how they were back in the day. That's the old style. There's really no use for it in modern times. But then I started reading Jack Dempsey's book, Championship Fighting, and he talks about the equipment that you need to start. And one of the things he highlights very specifically and very intentionally is that you should not wear boxing gloves. Instead, you should wear boxing mitts, these very thin pieces of leather that you put on your hands. Dempsey said that these gloves were perfect for perfecting technique, specifically your punching technique, and strengthening your hands. Around the same time I read that, I got an advertisement for these. These are TK's Gladiator boxing mitts. So, why don't we give them a try? The first thing you might be thinking is, and I thought it too, these are kind of expensive, so why not just hit the bag bare knuckle? There are a lot of people that really advocate hitting the bag bare knuckle. There are also a lot of people that say that that is the devil and you should never do it, but the people that do advocate for it make similar claims. It toughens your hands, corrects punching technique, etc., etc. So if that's true, why spend the coin on something like this? That's a totally fair criticism, but something like this is going to prevent from friction burns, scrapes, stuff like that. There are some cheaper alternatives to something like this. We'll talk about it. That is the one thing I can think of that it would have over bare knuckle. So I started with the double M bag and immediately I was thrown off. I consider myself more of a hobbyist, so sometimes my technique is a little lacking, especially when I'm wearing these big gloves. The smaller size of these really made me have to sit down, slow down, and focus on what I was doing. This footage, it honestly makes me cringe a little because, again, with big gloves, I can get away with wilder punches. I like to think that because I have this boxing background that if somebody tried something on the streets that I'd be able to do something, but without those big gloves, I'm kind of nothing. Yeah, it's really made me think that I have to really sit down and focus on my technique. So I did. I mean, it did its job in that sense. Like it made me stop and think about it. I loved hitting the double M bag with this thing. Having that moving target really helped me out. It's also, the double M bag is lighter than like, a heavy bag, so it didn't really hurt my hands or anything. I think it was a really good experience. I think I'm going to keep doing it. I think it helped me out a lot. Then I went upstairs to the heavy bag. I hit that thing way too hard. There is no padding on this thing. It's not really the point. So being used to hitting it with 16-ounce gloves, I hit it too hard. I needed to cool it down. I do think hitting the heavy bag with it was helpful because it really made me stop and focus on my punches and making sure they landed right. Because if they landed wrong, it hurt a lot. So it was really a trial by fire kind of thing. Now, I said that this was supposed to stop bumps and bruises. And I'll be honest with you, when I took the gloves off, I cut my hand. I cut my knuckle. I do think it was probably better than if I just hit it bare knuckle, but it didn't prevent injuries entirely. And again, I walloped that bag. You can also wear these like on the speed bag. I see a lot of old training footage of people doing it. I didn't try that out. I don't super see the point now. Your hands are wrapped. It's gonna be the same thing, but you can do that if you so choose. So overall, verdict on these things. I like them. Definitely going to use them on the double M bag a lot more. I would not use these all the time, especially on the heavy bag. I do think you could do some real damage to your knuckles, to your wrist. But if you're gonna take it, slow it down and use them, they're pretty good. I mean, they are really good for correcting technique. I tend to slap my hooks, especially when I'm fighting when I'm on the inside. My coaches told me that, so I've really been focusing with these on not doing that, turning my wrist over, and having to punch correctly. These force you to do it, so it's been very helpful. So as long as you're not punching hard and you're focusing on your technique, making sure that it's correct, I think that these are a great tool. Again, wouldn't use them every day, but worth it. Now, there is the question of price on these. They are about $60 for these, and honestly, it's nice. It's like I believe it's real leather. I think it's worth that. But if you want the benefits of a bag mitt, but you don't necessarily want to spend that kind of money or don't have access to something like this, Dempsey does give an alternative in his book, and it's simply gardening gloves. And you can pick that up at any home goods store, get a nice pair, but it's probably only going to be like 15-20 bucks for that instead of 60. But I don't regret this. I don't think you'll regret it either. But if you need an alternative, there you go. Would you use these? Let me know what you think. If you like this kind of content, you can stick around. We're going to be doing more stuff like this. So thank you. Have a good one.